back to Chris Taylor again. Could you do more science and tech videos like the Wright brothers? My son had to do a project on the Wright brothers and was transfixed by that video. My son's name happens to be Charlie Taylor, the one who on the 7-Eleven was awesome too. Maybe they'd escape demonetization as well. I'd love to. I remember I read a book called about the Wright brothers, and needless to say, I knew a fair amount of it. And I talked about how Bert and Dick Rutan were the Wright brothers, you know, R-I-G-H-T brothers, because I'd spent some time up there with them. And Bert and Dick had a third person in the form of Mike Melville, and the three of these people accomplished aviation miracles, in the same way that Orville and Wilbur accomplished miracles, and Fred Taylor, right? Was it Charlie Taylor. Fred Taylor's a running back for Florida. Charlie Taylor was a mechanic, and we know about the Wright brothers and their conquest of the air, the first people to fly, but they never would have flown that thing without Charlie Taylor. Charlie Taylor, the Wright brothers themselves, Orville and Wilbur, spent a long time trying to find an engine that was light enough and powerful enough to get this thing off the ground, and there simply wasn't one. So this guy, Charlie Taylor, just took a big block of aluminum and just bored some holes into it and built some pistons. He made the engine that powered the Wright Flyer. He's as much of that victory as the Wright brothers are. I'd love to do stories like this. There's a tremendous story that needs to be told. What's his name? One second. I can't. Sometimes I just blank. I mean, I know this guy very well. I just don't. I just blank on names sometimes. What the hell's the matter with me? Duh. Sorry, Rand. Rand Simberg. I know Rand very well. I just could not place his name. So here's a story that was mentioned by Rand Simberg that I think is really great kind of thing that you're talking about, needs to be told. And it's the story of the R100 and the R101. Make sure I get them right. I want to say... I want to get the numbers right. Yep. Yep. Okay, so here's the story. And it's a great story, and it deserves a whole in-depth piece. So I want to say this is after World War I, but we had basically, the Zeppelin technology from the Germans, and the British decided to build their own airships in the manner of a Zeppelin, like the Hindenburg. I want to say this preceded the Hindenburg, but I'm not 100% sure about that. In any event, they were going to build a ship, a dirigible, big old Zeppelin-type airship. And for one reason or another, I don't remember how this happened, but they took the same design. Maybe they didn't have enough money for two of them or whatever. And one of them, the R100, was given to private enterprise to be built by private companies. And the R101 was constructed by the British government. And so basically, the R101 got all of the resources, and the R100 got none. And very much the same way that Langley got $10,000, which was a huge sum of money in or maybe it was more than that. In early 1900s, the federal government paid Langley to build a flying machine. I think he called it his aerodrome. In any event, Langley's went crashing right into the Potomac River, did nothing. And he had all of these resources. The Wright brothers had nothing but their own minds and their own meager resources. They succeeded. Same thing with these two airships, and for the same reason. So the short form is, because the R100 was so short on resources, they had to substitute brain power for money. And all of these innovations in terms of saving weight, safety, all of this went into the R100 design, which was virtually identical to the R101 design. The R101, having had unlimited funds from the British government, was gold-plated, overweight, exceedingly overweight, underpowered, and all the rest. The R101 maiden flight, I kind of want to say it was to India, I think. Launched amid great fanfare, you know, because the R100 was the bastard child. That was the one that the private people were working on. Obviously, that's not going to work. But the big government airship was getting ready to fly, and they wanted to do a maiden flight to India. And the people on the crew of the R101 were not too fond of this idea because they knew that airship was a pig. But they did it anyway, so amid great fanfare, R101 takes off on its trip to India, and it doesn't make it out of France. I don't think it gets out of even Western France. The thing is so underpowered that and so heavy that it couldn't clear a simple line of relatively low hills. I mean, it might have been the Alps, the foothills of the Alps, but I don't think it was. I'm pretty sure it was just, you know, low hills. And this thing just kept descending. Finally, the R101 crashes, and I think everybody on board is killed, or almost everybody on board. And then the R100, the private enterprise thing, goes on and flies probably the most successful career of any rigid airship ever. And this is proof of something. It's another piece of evidence. And the story behind it is something I need to read up on, because telling that story is something I can do, and I think it's the kind of thing you're talking about. It's a kind of stuff that seems a little bit technical, but once you get to the human story underneath it, I think you're really getting somewhere. But anyway, thanks, Chris. So I will definitely get back, and I'll do something tomorrow night. I'll show some pictures and make up for this late start. And I've got a couple things to take care of here, and then, honey, I'm coming home.